Okay, so today in class we learned to use our multiplication chart better. In this case, we know that 24, like in this problem right here, we've got that 24 times 3, I don't care where the decimals are, but 24 times 3 is 72. In the question, there was 1, 2, 3 decimal places, so in the answer there's going to be 1, 2, 3 decimal places. So I get the answer is 72 thousandths, which if I scroll down would be right there. Um, so we looked at different ways to do this, but if they give us the answer is like 195, and we look at that, we've got 0 and oops and 3 thousandths times 0 and 65 hundredths. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal points in the question, or decimal places in the question. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the answer. And so, as silly as that may seem, I need it to be 0 and would that be? 195 ten thousandths, 100 thousandths. Ugly. Um, I would move the decimal point 5 spaces to the left. Okay, and so if you know the answer to the multiplication problem, figuring out where the decimal point goes is not a problem. Here we go, 765. And I count that there's 3 decimals in the question. There has to be 3 decimal places in the answer. And so here we go. I look at this. 0 and 42 thousandths, oops, 10 thousandths. There's 4 decimal places. The first one, there'd be 4, so that's going to be a check. The second one, there's going to be 4, that's a check. That's 5, there's no way. That one's 3, so I know it can't be. And 21 and 02, there's 4 spots, could be that one. So all of those would work perfect. I don't even need to check the math. Here's the first one where you're going to be asked to multiply this out. I've got 54 times 24, and then there's going to be 2 decimal places that I'm going to have to take care of later. I looked at my multiplication chart, and I could actually find my 24s. And so, like, I just looked up 24 times 4. I kind of did it the other way around because 54 is not on my chart. So I did 24 times 4 is 96. And 24 times 50, though, I'm going to put a decimal place there. So 24 times 5 is 120. And so, and that placeholder, because it's a 20, it's not a 2. I add these up, and then I get 6, 9, 2, 1, and there's 2 decimal places. I get 12.96. Submit and explain. And I know I did it backwards. I actually did 54 times 24 because, again, 24 was on my multiplication chart. According to the commutative property, I could do them in order, any order I wanted. 2 decimal places in the question means 2 decimal places in the answer. Okay, and I submit that, and I go on to the next problem. Ooh, lots of decimal places. Basically, this is 101 times 35, which I know is 35, but I'll break it down a little bit slower. 5 times 101 is going to be 505. I put a placeholder because it's 30, not 3, and I get 303. Add these together, 35, 35. But here's the problem. I wrote it way over on the left-hand side, and I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decimal places. And so in this case, I needed 35, 35. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 0.0. And so 0.123 35. Submit and explain. And then there'd be 7 decimal places. That's all I'm going to write. There's 7 decimal places in the question, so 7 decimal places in the answer. Same. Next. 350.6 pounds. So I've got 350 times 6. I looked up 5 times 6 I'll do it slowly. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 5 is 30. And that 0 is very important. And then 1821. There are 3 decimal places in the question. There have to be 3 in the answer. But when we're talking money, that's like $2.10. We didn't even buy a pound of it, so it can't be more than $3.50. And so $2.10 makes sense. I got 250 and then 18. I looked up in my multiplication chart because I've got it out. I just did 25 times 18, and 25 times 18 is 450. Now, in reality, if I was to multiply 8 times 0, there would have been a 0. And then 8 times 5 is 40, and there would be this other 0. So it would have looked like that. So when I'm counting the decimal places and there's 3, it goes there. But that just makes sense to me because I'm buying almost 2 pounds of this stuff. It's $2.50 per pound. I'm expecting it to be $4.50. I add those together, I get $6.60. $6.60. Submit and explain. This one, there's all sorts of decimal places all over the place. So, I mean, there were 3 in each, but then I ended up losing that extra 0 because talking about fractions of a penny in this case doesn't matter. I'm just going to see work. Okay, and then, okay, well, 20 times 5 is 100. Oops, that's not a... 20 times 8 is 160, but there's 1 decimal point, so that'd be 16. 20 times 4 would be 80, but then there's 2 decimal points, so I've got a 0.80. And then 584 is just all those added together. So this is the first time I had to do work. 100 plus 16 plus 0.80. I'm going to put decimals over here, make it look like $100, $16.80. Well, that's my answer. $116.80. 116.80. Submit. Okay, I kind of do this one different than the book because trying to get from 12 to 4 is nice. It's just I divided by 3. And 540 divided by 3, 5 divided by 3, like I get that it's going to be $1.80 for those 4 muffins. And so I just divided both sides by 3. And so what's at this rate, what is the price of 4 muffins? $1.80. Submit and explain. I divided by 3. Not much to discuss. I think they're hoping that you would find a unit rate. You divide by 12, which totally would have worked. If I had divided by 12, then 1 muffin is, what, 45 cents? And so, but then when I went to do the next problem, I ran into some trouble. Oh, I did that. Submit and explain. Here we go. So now it says, how many can you buy for $4? And the real way I would do this is, I mean, you're not at this level yet. As a 6th grader, I would have done this, figured out that it was 45 cents each, which I just did, and then I would have taken $4, and I would have divided by 45 cents. And I would have done that math. But that's not what they're expecting you to do as a 6th grader. They're wanting you to use logic here. If I can get 4 muffins for $1.80, I put the decimal point in totally the wrong spot. 4 muffins equals $1.80. Then I can get 8 muffins is going to equal $3.60. I just multiplied by 2. But then 9 muffins, if I added 45 more cents, would be $4.05. So that's too much. So they just kind of wanted you to play around with the numbers and see how it works to get that you can get 8. But at this point, doing the math properly, we're going to learn that in the next section or the next sections when we get to division. So what was it? If 4 muffins cost 180, comma, then 8 cost 360, but 9 would be 405, which is too much. Okay, and then let's see how I did. Yay, I got them all right. If you have any questions, please ask in class. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.